So, welcome everyone, and let's start with 3 minutes of meditation. So, I've put up the photo of Mother in front of us. For those of us who would like to maybe do it with the Mother or with their breath, whatever suits you. So, let's for 2 3 minutes, we'll stay with our breath and concentrating in our heart, maybe with the Mother or on the breath. Yeah. So just silent meditation. I'm not putting any music on at the moment. So welcome again, and let's start. So we have in week 5 two prayers with us to reflect upon January 9, 1914 and January 10, 1914. So anyone who would like to go through the first prayer and read it out maybe first, it would be nice to listen to it and then maybe share your reflections, or if you just want to go ahead read and then let others share their reflections, that's also okay. So anyone who wants to go first, please unmute. Yeah, anyone who would like to read first, if not maybe share reflection.
I could read, Monica.
Yeah, why not? Go ahead.
January 9th, 1914. Lord, incomprehensible reality, thou who ever fleest before our conquest, effective though it may be, thou who shalt always be the unknown, despite all that we shall learn to know of thee, despite all that we shall ravish from thy eternal mystery. We would go forward, making a complete and constant effort, combining all the multiple paths leading to thee. Go forward like a rising, indomitable tide, breaking down all obstacles, crossing every barrier, lifting up every veil, scattering all clouds, piercing through all darkness, go forward towards thee, ever to thee, in a movement so powerful, so irresistible, that a whole multitude may be drawn in our wake. And the earth, conscious of thy new and eternal presence, understand at last its true purpose, and live in the harmony and peace of thy sovereign realization. Teach us always more, give us more light, dispel our ignorance, illumine our minds, transfigure our hearts, and give us the love that never runs dry and makes thy sweet law flower in every being. We are thine for all eternity.
Yeah, thank you, Swapna. Yes. Yeah, so anyone who feels like sharing anything that comes to you on this prayer, those of us who have gone through it earlier or maybe who are reading it for the first time, anything that resonates and you want to bring it forward. Yeah, anyone? Okay, we are all too silent today.
Monica ji, if I can
Yes, yeah, please. Yeah.
I'm also reading for the first time this time. Okay. So to start with, she's addressing the Lord as incomprehensible reality. Thou, whoever fleest before our conquest, effective though it may be, thou who shalt always be the unknown despite all we shall learn to know of thee, despite all that we shall ravish from thy eternal mystery. We would go forward, making a complete and constant effort, combining all the paths, multiple paths leading to thee. Go forward like a rising, indomitable tide, breaking down all obstacles, crossing every barrier, lifting out every veil, scattering all clouds, piercing through all darkness. Go forward towards thee, ever to thee in a movement so powerful, so irresistible, that a whole multitude may be drawn in our wake, and the earth, conscious of thy new and eternal presence, understand at last its true purpose and live in the harmony and peace of thy sovereign realization. So, reading it, I felt that Mother here is contemplating and praying on the vastness of the divine, the vastness that however perfect we are imperfect. However victorious we are, there is still more to do. Whatever we have achieved, it's nothing compared to what we have to achieve. And that is what she is saying. Thou who fleest before our conquest, effective though it may be, even though whatever steps, intermediate steps we have achieved in spiritual path, they are effective. Thou who shall always be the unknown, despite all that we shall learn to know of thee. Whatever we know about the Lord is insufficient. However knowledgeable we are, we will never be able to fathom in totality. Because, first of all, as long as that concept of the division of the devotee and the divine is there, that's a duality. So they say that at the supreme, at the pinnacle, becomes one. And we know that story in India, right? That I think 4 or 5 blind people who were describing one elephant, and they were touching different parts of the elephant, like somebody touched the tail, and he said he is hairy. Somebody touched the trunk, and he said that the elephant is, uh, he has a trunk. Somebody touched the feet. And so they all are speaking the truth. They are speaking the same truth. They are speaking, describing the same elephant, but only in part of different uh, part. And that is what happens. Ramakrishna Dev or others, even Mother has said, the moment you express the truth, it becomes limited. We limit it by our understanding. And that is, I felt when it came to my mind when I first read this sentence today here, that she speaks that however vast or small, as Sri Aurobindo said, that God is not, divine is not limited by its infinity. It becomes finite also. It chooses to be a worm, as it chooses to be vastness, it chooses to be a worm. So humble it is. And that is there, thy eternal mystery. We would go forward, making complete and constant effort. And that is the effort and the path, combining all the multiple paths leading to thee. So whatever spiritual path is there, they all lead to the divine. Ramakrishna Dev has said that as many paths, and even in synthesis of yoga, we see, Sri Aurobindo said that as many paths are there, all are true. They all lead to the divine through different routes. Go forward like rising, indomitable tide, breaking down all obstacles. And when their progress happens, that it breaks down all obstacles, one has to crossing every barrier, lifting out every veil, scattering all the clouds, piercing through all darkness, go forward towards thee, ever to thee. And this movement of ascent is endless. Nobody can say, and even Mother, we see that 1956, 63, 69, 1773, she is just progressing. And she is saying that I had to live whatever realizations I have made up to this point to move ahead. And this is 1914 she is writing. Much later she wrote, she spoke that if only I knew what I knew now, what I know now, if I only knew when I was writing those prayers and meditations, it would have been so useful. So that this ascent, this path, this progress is endless. Whatever we do, there are more to be done. Lifting out every wheel, scattering all clouds, piercing through all darkness, go forwards, thee, ever to thee, in a movement so powerful, so irresistible, that whole multitude may be drawn in our way. And she always speaks for the world. That she is saying that if we move ahead, that time naturally the transformation of world and other thing probably was not directly in her agenda, but she's always felt of changing the world. And that is what is here, that as she moves ahead, the world will follow her. The earth, conscious of thy new and eternal presence, understand at last its true purpose. But the earth will wake up, which is currently unconscious, will wake up to the true purpose of the divine and live in the harmony and peace of thy sovereign realization. Once they realize the true purpose, everyone, there will be harmony and peace on this world. Teach us always more, give us more light, dispel our ignorance, illumine our minds, transfigure our hearts. I think this can be a personal prayer for each one of us, what Mother is saying. Give us more of the good and give us love that never runs dry and makes thy sweet love flower in every being. We are thine for all eternity. And that love inexhaustible, like the eternal fountain which is never dry. Make thy sweet love flower in every being. What is that sweet love? That love, the law of love, that self-giving, the progress that one achieves. Let everyone be touched by that. We are thine for all eternity. That's a closing statement of offering, that we are forever for the divine.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jishnuji. Yes. Yeah, would anyone like to add on or share to what Jishnuji just reflected upon? It becomes very difficult at times in our human lives. We have so many things clinging here and there that when they change, since impermanence is the law of life, it hurts, and we have to go through that discomfort for some time. Whenever things change, it hurts us. Mostly, even if we are many a times in stuck in relationships which are not that cordial, even then, when they are breaking apart, when things have to change, we undergo a turmoil. And that's because the mind that we live from, as Mother says, the desire soul, the desiring self, that is so clingy, it's so sticky, it just sticks to everything. So as Jishnuji was sharing, that even, no matter how forward we may have gone in the spiritual part, doesn't matter. This clinginess can come up any time. And that's why the importance of being vigilant, that as long as we have breath in the body, as long as we have human form, the clinginess can get on any time, no matter how many siddhis or powers we may have. Anything can become our identity. Any image, self image about the world, we can get stuck on any which level. And that's why the beauty of this path, which is an unending journey, that we just have to be vigilant, working on ourselves all the time, the attention focused on my own self. That how can I make my own inner being purified and peaceful and of benefit to others. Otherwise, if I am full of poison and not working on clarifying that poison, then how can I be of benefit to anyone, whether it's my close relationships or people not that close to me? I'll just spill out poison. So I think this concentrating on one's own journey, which we lose focus from time to time, we lose focus because something happens in our outer life, some friend comes, some, community develops, and the whole focus shifts to that external thing. And we don't even realize, for the lack of vigilance, that we now are just living up to an image that is created in our head, and the focus has shifted from our own progress. And then sooner or later some blow comes, which is good for us. Blows are good for us because they tell us that we are not living our true purpose, which is awakening of our true nature, and which is an unending journey. Where Mother says in the last here line, not in the last, this one, understand at last its true purpose. What is our purpose as human beings? Our purpose is to constantly awaken ourselves to the subtler and subtler forms of consciousness. Subtler and subtler. First, we become conscious to the gross level. Okay, what am I eating? How am I walking? That is the grosser level. Then I become conscious of my thoughts, my feelings. Okay, how am I thinking? What am I thinking throughout the day, 24/7? What goes on in my head? And then even subtle in our dreams. What are the kind of dreams that are rising from the subconscious? Okay, this is my pattern, this is my thought pattern, this is my emotional pattern. And even further, when in the dreamless sleep, we have this a background awareness that is there. So there is so much to explore in our own being. I mean, who has the time to get bored? There is so much to realize within ourselves. So, as Jishnuji was sharing, and this incomprehensible reality, one can never say that I understand, because everything is so relative. We are always understanding in bits and pieces. And as the example that he was sharing, that I touch the tail of the elephant, and it's not that that is not right, it is hairy, the tail, but that's not the whole of truth. So, through our limited mind, we get to know only these conceptual, limited images, and that's what we have to wake up to. We have to wake up to our illumined mind, wake up to something beyond the limited mind. That there is a knowing that knows by identity, by itself, it knows. And to that we have to wake up to, and to stabilize in that waking up, that becomes more real. And what we now take it for real, that actually appears like more like a dream. So teach us always more, always be a learner, like child, like a child is, Mother says in one of her quotations that the best gift that one can give a child is to always have this capacity to learn. And many a times as adults, we think we know, and we fall into this trap of I know, this arrogance, and we fail to learn, and stagnancy comes in life, dullness comes in life. But if we can continue to learn, not only in spiritual aspects but about our own selves, okay, let me know about my own self. Let me know a new skill, for example, learning all the time, honing ourselves. Teach us always more, give us more light. And light again is synonymous with consciousness, our awareness that is full of light, that which sees in us, that which is capable of looking, that which is capable of knowing, that light. We have to knowingly become that light. Unknowingly, we all are that light. But knowingly, we have to identify with that light. That's what Mother's prayers and meditations. She's again and again hinting that knowingly, let me unify with your true consciousness. Dispel our ignorance, because we live in ignorance. It's not that we are not that light, but I'm ignoring all the time that I'm that light. All the time my focus is on this and that and this and that and that story and that drama, and in that identification with the surface movements, I ignore the basic true nature that I have, which is consciousness itself, awareness itself. With the light of awareness, I see, I know. Illumine our minds, because our minds, usually we live at a very very conceptual sense mind level. Whatever I'm sensing through senses, my sense mind and conditioned mind, it translates the experience into this and that form, coming from very limited conditioned knowledge. That's our sense mind. We live at that surface level. So she's saying, illumine our minds, make our minds a receptacle of true knowledge. And as Sri Aurobindo says, that without a silent mind, how can we become a receptacle? And that's where comes the importance of quietening down the being, and not always running here and there, so that I become a true receptacle for divine light. Illumine our minds, transfigure our hearts. At this moment, most of us, if not all, we live at the emotive heart, full of turmoils of the vital desiring self. The frontal, as Mother says, the front part of the heart is emotive, vital, desiring, clinging, wanting, expecting, demanding, all the time there. And if we have suffered enough, then that suffering can be a straight way, because in the depths of the same heart lies our true heart, which is the psychic being. In the horizontal depths of our, not physical heart, but the center of our being, is the seat of the psychic, as Mother says. In the fourth dimension, wisdom of true heart, inner heart, that is full of love, compassion, kindness, giving, self-offering. It gives itself. Usually the vital is always demanding. Okay, what can I get from this person, that relationship, that work? But this true giving comes when we get in touch with our true heart. Now it doesn't demand, but it just offers itself to the whole of humanity and the sentient beings. So transfigure our hearts and give us the love that never runs dry. So this love, which is at the base of our core of our existence, which Jishnuji was pointing to, make us, give us, make us conscious of that love. It's not that it's not there, but we don't know that we are drenched in that. And as Kabir would say, that in a full of ocean, water, is all everywhere, but a fish remains thirsty. Pani mein meen pyasi. And he says that I laugh about it. That how can one, when one is drenched in its true nature, how can one be ignorant of that beauty and love and fullness? So what we have to do is, by our all these steps, breaking down obstacles, crossing all barriers, like a warrior, we have no other option. We have to go ahead, and to become conscious of this love, which is embracing us all times. 24/7, it is embracing us. Just like space. Space is never away from us. We are enveloped by space all the time, but we are ignorant of it. We're not putting our attention on it. Our attention it on the furniture in the space, right? So if the furniture has given me enough suffering, that's why suffering at times is helpful, then my attention goes, there must be solace somewhere, and if I wake up, then I see that, oh my God, I was always drenched wet in this love all around me, but I was not aware. So make us more aware of this love that never runs dry. And make thy sweet law flower in every being. This, as Jishnuji was pointing, the sweet law of love. And love is a name which is synonymous with our true nature, the true nature of consciousness. The more we become one with our consciousness, the more we know ourselves as consciousness, not even in mental theory and concepts, but it becomes our life. The more full of love, warmth, compassion we become. So love is a name which is synonymous with consciousness. Those of us who have, those masters, those enlightened beings who have truly realized, have really deeper realizations, since the realizations are never ending, but if they have any deeper realizations, we see it very beautifully that how kind, how warm those beings are, full of warmth, full of compassion, kindness. And that's because it's like a very easy demonstration for us that here is someone who knows, although that knowing has no end, but here is someone who knows. So that love make us flower in every being. And because it's not we cannot, we can never be happy if we are only enlightened ourselves and all the beings are in dirt and mud. That's why mother, in every prayer, she takes the whole of earth along with her, whole of. And it's again in Buddhist practices also, the practice of bodhicitta, bodhisattva, that he says that may I become a bridge for all those who wants to cross the flood. So he puts his own enlightenment, the true bodhisattva, that I don't want to reach the enlightenment, I want to go along with all the creatures that are there. So make me a bridge, people can walk over me, they can hold my hand, walk over me, or whatever, make me of benefit to the whole of existence, because we are in this boat together. We cannot have personal enlightenments. There is nothing called personal enlightenment. Make thy sweet love flower in every being. We are thine for all eternity. Because what else is there but the divine? Even if we think we belong to the ego, where is this drama happening? It's happening in one divine being. So we are always safe. Even a Ravana is always safe. Ultimately he gets Ram. So that's the beauty, that it's although a win-win situation, but if we want to make it collaborative, that's a choice that we have, that we don't have to make ourselves suffer in not collaborating with the divine. So yeah, really beautiful prayer, as with all the prayers of the mother. It just gives us that, tells us that we are safe. We are all safe. We are in it together. You are not alone. I am not alone. And let us walk on and on in this journey. Yeah. So anything anyone wants to add on?
Monikaji, I wanted to share something about Ravan. And as you said about, I heard this from Shraddhavan of Savitri Bhavan. I did not know this story myself. And so she said that the soul of Ravan was one of the greatest disciples of Ram. And then when we asked that how it was, we had asked her how it was and where did it originate. So she said that before all this was there, that is before Ram and Ravan was there was the divine called that, okay, I will go to the earth, because Ram was the first avatar, Sri Ram. I will go to the earth and I want another person who will be named always with me, but with hate, but with disgust. Who amongst you choose to be that person? And Ravan, the soul of Ravan said, I will be that person. That I will be always named with you, though with disgust. I choose that as my offering service to you. I did not know this story. So I thought it's a very beautiful story. It changes the whole concept of Ram and Ravan. So I thought I'd share.
Yeah, beautiful. Yes. Thank you for sharing. And there, I was reading something, and there, it's just what you shared, almost on the same lines. It was shared that gratitude to all the people who have been, so-called evil or difficult to us, because if not for those difficult people, we would never be able to practice patience, tolerance, compassion, kindness. So as if we have partied together, we are, as you were sharing, Ravan is a partner of Ram rather than something which is against Ram and, some other party, because that's the play that's happening there. So yeah, totally resonates. Hmm. And now it's, when we talk about like this, then it appears more like a leela, which so far may be appearing like, what is really happening, and why has God just abandoned us human beings here, and where is he hiding? And now when we just the story that you shared, and this thing that if not for the difficult people, how would we practice all these virtues? So thanks to those people who are evil, so called evil, that they chose to be evil, that it doesn't matter that my name may be ruined forever, but with the help of each other we go forward in this journey. So that's very interesting, more like, appears more like a play then. Yeah. So we can, if it's okay with everyone, then we can go ahead with the second prayer, January 10, 1914. And anyone who would like to read first? I think earlier uh, Ashwarya and Dr. Rashmi had unmuted. They also wanted to read. So if any one of you would like to read now, you're most welcome. Yeah, anyone? Yes, Ashwarya.
My aspiration rises towards thee, ever the same in its almost childlike form, so ordinary in its simplicity, but my call is ever more ardent, and behind the faltering words there is all the fervour of my concentrated will. And I implore thee, O Lord, in spite of the sorry, I'm not able to get that.
Yeah, I think it's a navet,
Oh,
knife. You can
naivete,
say knife.
naivete,
Yeah,
naivete.
yeah.
Yeah. I was not able to. Yeah, yeah. And I implore thee, O Lord, in spite of the naivete of this expression that is hardly intellectual, I implore thee for more true light, true purity, sincerity, and love, and all this for the multitude constituting what I call my being, and for the multitude constituting the universal being. I implore thee, though I know that it is perfectly useless to implore thee, for we alone in our ignorance and ill will can stand in the way of thy glorious and total manifestation. But something childlike within me finds a support in this mental attitude. I implore thee that the peace of thy reign may spread throughout the earth. O inaccessible summit, which we unceasingly scale without ever reaching thee, sole reality of our being, whom we believe we have found only to see thee immediately escape us. Marvelous state, which we think we have seized, but which leads us farther and farther into ever unexplored depths and immensities. No one can say, I have known thee, and yet all carry thee in themselves, and in the silence of their soul can hear the echo of thy voice. But this silence is itself progressive, and whatever be the perfection of the union we have realized, as long as we belong by our body to the world of relativity, This union with thee can always grow more perfect. But all these words we use to speak about thee are only idle talk. Grant that I may become thy faithful servitor.
Yeah, thank you. I think we can just, with the last line, but all these words we use to speak about thee are only idle talk. I think we can just contemplate on this line and let it be. This line itself is so powerful that in front of this, everything actually, appears so little. And yet here we are talking about it. Never mind. So anyone who would want to share anything on this prayer? Hmm. This silence sounds good. It looks good. So this prayer, I think with all the prayers, they just speak for themselves, although since we like to reflect and share and it expands our view, we talk about it. So let us not, my suggestion is let us not talk about it. I don't know, I may be wrong, but after the last line, I don't know, I'm almost speechless. These are only idle talk. So let us contemplate on this in our silences later on. And this, although not on the prayer, but this reminds me of, again and again, this idea of uh, wanting to know what's at the core of existence, like in quantum physics, as physicists want to go deeper and deeper, and there are experiments wanting to know the god particle, that as if one day we will have the basic, the basic subtlest most consciousness in our hands. And it amazes me that we can think like that, but maybe it has some purpose, since everything has its own purpose. Yeah. Okay, so Snehi is sharing something. The biggest human temptation is to settle for less. Yeah, so this was something from Thomas Merton. I'll just put it again. Yeah, this one. So I had shared two quotes of Thomas Merton. The second one being the biggest human temptation is to settle for too little. So when I was reading this, it reminded me of, usually we have a background unease, and this background unease is for some becomes very intense when it takes the form of intense suffering. Then I am able to notice it, that something is really not right in my life, when the suffering becomes too intense, and that's why it comes as a blessing. Now the background unease has taken the form of suffering, and now I can attend to it. But most of us become very comfortable with the background unease. So when I read that we settle for too little, that we say, okay, everyone has stress in life, everyone has some unease, some restless in life. Let me also, find my distractions and be fine. So while the same unease has the propensity or the, it can propel us to find the divine in us. And we don't realize, I feel, again, what sharing from my own reflections, that I feel that we don't realize that this unease uh, is there because there is work to do, because we have to realize, when we were reading in the earlier prayer, that so that we may realize the true purpose of our existence, to find the godhead in us and to make it alive for us. It is alive, but it's in background. So when we settle for mediocre lives, when we settle for that everybody is getting married and getting happy, so-called happy families, everybody is doing this job. So although I don't really want to get in that rut, but I yet, knowing all what's happening, what everybody is doing, I'm propelled to do that. Even then, knowing that it does not do anything to my unease remains in the background. But the same unease, we can also say that if I have been given a thirst, there must be water somewhere. And this water is the genuine, lasting contentment, lasting joy that is at the core of our existence, our true nature. So that's what came to me when I read that we settle for too little, that we said, oh, I'm so happy and contented in my job, but nobody can be contented in limited, experiences. We all have kind of, we have to have innumerable experiences, as mother says, because each experience gives us something, puts us more light, if I can say, on our true nature. That yes, it has to be realized that no matter how much good a job I have at hand, no matter how much good a relationship I have at hand, whatever is there right now, sooner or later it comes and goes, and I am empty handed. Now, in when that I am empty handed, there is an unease. And with that unease, if I can go deeper within and what mother says, unite with my true essence, then I think it's the proper utilization of that unease. So, not to settle down with little and less, not to fool ourselves that we are contented, and know that we are discontent. I have discontent. And as Krishnamurti, I think I heard Jiddu Krishnamurti also sharing that, you preserve your discontent, because that discontent is your honesty. You know that I have to realize, I have to, do work, inner work. Something is to be done. If I can say, it is to be done, because veils are to be lifted and ignorance has to be lifted. So that's what was coming to me, that unease can be a propeller for the true purpose, waking up to the true purpose. Yeah, anyone who wants to share.
So for me, Monica ji and others, what I felt, mother always said that when people are saying, I am feeling disappointed with the normal human life, and mother and even others, they said, this is the beginning of the higher realization. The moment you feel disappointed with normal things, or when the moment you feel empty with the normal things, with all success, whatever you have achieved, if you are content, just satisfied, it ends there. Only thing is, there is a difference between the psychic gladness and this contentment that we choose. And the psychic gladness comes from the union of the divine, union with the divine, union who knows that this is exactly what divine wanted me to do. We all may theoretically speak that where we are, divine wanted us, but in our heart, we know that we are not convinced. But once we are in contact with psychic being, or even under psychic influence, if we have a chance to meet that person, you will see that that person is absolutely contented, not choosing to do or not to do anything, but he is contented or she is contented because they are being guided by the divine and knows that exactly this is what has to be done. Of course, that's a much progressed state in evolution. But otherwise, the discontentment, yes, as you spoke, discontentment drives us towards new progress. If we would be accepting and be happy with how the world is, then there would be no progress in this world.
Yes, thank you, Jishnuji. Anyone else would like to add on? Any reflection to share? I think this thing also was beautiful. We are not at peace with others because we are not at peace with ourselves. And we are not at peace with ourselves because we are not at peace with God. So, as Sri Aurobindo says, that true harmony, can only be achieved uh, when we begin to live at the supramental consciousness. It becomes a reality for us. Most of the times we are living in the egoistic consciousness. We have likes, preferences, demands, and our own dogmas and opinions of what is right, what is wrong, and we are always at clash with other people, always. And even if there is harmony in Life Divine, I think Mother Sri Aurobindo refers, even if there is harmony, it's at a very relative level, that we have made peace, that she doesn't enter my life, I don't enter her life. And we have achieved a relative level of harmony, but that's not true harmony. So the more I think, when we see the nature of our relationships where we are at the moment, that we don't have true intimacy in our relationships, because the more go closer to the other person, we see that we are at clash. There is more friction rather than oneness. And even if there is a certain oneness that we may have achieved, it soon dissipates and withers away. Because as he says in the last one, we are not at peace with ourselves because we are not at peace with God. So the true consciousness, which can be called as God, which is unfathomable and ever progressive, the more we become one with that consciousness, the more harmony we can see in throughout our material existence also. So it is a possibility for us. It's not that we are always supposed to be like this, always at clash with each other. So this is very, I think, something for us to work upon, that if we see our relationships are challenged, and workplace and this and that, and unpeace is there, non-peace is there, it gives me more propulsion, if I can say, to become one with my own self, with my true self, to more and more go deeper within, and uh, not stop at one or second or one mini realization one may have. As Jishnuji was sharing in the beginning, that the journey is just to go on and on and on, and to unify ourselves with the true consciousness. Only then it will get reflected in the material world, and which is our journey. We cannot leave the material world tainted and drain and dirty, full of ugliness and clashes, and while I am having my own inner realization. So this, whatever inner realization we will have, it will get reflected upon in our relationships also. That's the true realization. That's where I think that's our work collectively as human beings. Yeah. And then every clash and every conflict in outer situation can just serve as fuel for me to have a deeper and deeper realization. So if I come across a trigger, then it just tells me, okay, work on yourself much deeply. Realization not yet complete, not yet complete. So then I think the focus also remains on oneself, and we don't make others our focus of attention in a wrong sense. Yeah. Yeah. Any last comments? Any last reflections? Anyone?
I was also thinking, Monica, like, you were saying how there can be stress or some kind of trigger from the other person. And I was just noticing with myself how even if something doesn't happen the way I want it to go, that it doesn't involve another, but just any situation. And the fact that I can become unsettled or peace goes out the window, right? Unless we are not at peace with God. It's like the sincerity or surrender it needs to accept however something unfolds is God's will. And I can use a simple example. I'm trying to make some plans, and it's not even something life shattering or, life and death, nothing. And still it's not going the way I'd like it to go today. And I notice how immediately from a place of just before our call of being in great equanimity or feeling a deep connection with the mother, this piece of news comes, like, oh, actually this is not available, you know, and I have to kind of rethink the whole plan. How this, yeah, that is the piece that is not at peace with God, you know, which is like, okay, it's not obviously not meant to have gone the other way that I thought I wanted. And desire, how desire steals that peace as well, you know, of noticing like, okay, immediately there's this disappointment, and therefore, of course, like Mother's pointed out, you know, that indicates a desire as well. So yeah, it's amazing how it takes really a lot of sincerity just to let go of this desire and this insistence on having it a certain way. And something else you shared, I think, from Buddhism, which was, you know, always running towards something or running away from something, right? So it's like, oh, running towards peace and running away from this discomfort now as well, you know, and that would steal the peace that comes from God. So yeah,
Yeah,
just aware of all that.
beautiful. Yes. And in that moment, I think this can become such a beautiful experiment for myself, that whatever the outer trigger is, if my focus is on what is happening within me and to see where I am, right now, I think in that seeing itself, things somehow change. That wow, this little thing, and look what it has done in my being. So it almost becomes like entertaining, once if we look at it like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Aishwarya, you wanted to share something?
Yeah, it just occurred to me from a sadhana perspective, all these years, uh, I used to think that, connecting it with what we were just discussing in the previous prayer regarding, removing all, shattering all barriers. It just occurred to me all this while. I used to think that, okay, I'm not able to meditate, or I'm not able to do put in the proper bodily exercise fit to be fit for the path and things like that. I used to think that these things as barriers, but it just occurred to me how conflicts in relationships and the deeper connotation that it has with our disconnection, how that can be a barrier, and it was like an epiphany, because sometimes we can be so antiseptic when it comes to conflicts in relationships. you know and when we just look at that, zoom in and see that there is so much unforgiveness within, and that's such a great barrier. So yeah, from this conflict point of view, that just occurred to me. It's not just what we consciously try from our egoistic perspective. I'm going to meditate and things like that, from a strict regimen point of view, but how these fluid realities of life, especially in relationships, which I think is like a furnace, is like a furnace totally. At least for me, it's like a furnace, because I tend to get really antiseptic when there's conflict, and that's such a barrier. And of course, we have uh, the prayer, and this was just beautiful. So that was just
Yeah.
the
Yeah, absolutely. And the beauty is that I think everything can be taken on the path, that's the beauty. Everything. So no human experience is an obstacle to our path. Isn't that beautiful? So the moment I become cognizant of a conflict, for example, as you were sharing, in relationships, which is there, which is a fact of somehow our life at this moment, the moment I become aware of it and I see my suffering, so there is a light in me which is able to see my suffering, immediately I can make use of it. And one way which I've been sharing lately, one way of making use of it is, uh, I don't know, not many may resonate with it, but to whoever, it may resonating, that just like I suffer in conflicting relationships, I connect with the pain of so many other beings suffering in the similar way. And this is, you inhale that suffering. All, we are not alone, we are all together. So in whatever plane we touch in our own experience, we can connect with the same plane at a collective level, and we make use of it, and then we transform it, that may all the beings have beautiful harmonious relationships, and may they have content and joy. So immediately I have shifted my own consciousness, and immediately I've made use of whatever raw material popped up for me. But for that, one thing this is required is being conscious of my experience. Usually the experience is happening and I don't even know where I am. I'm so swept away by the experience. So if a part of me is witnessing the experience and sees the suffering or the pain, immediately it helps me to connect with the pain of the whole of existence. And that's where our oneness lies. That gives us a window to become one with all. That our walls may be separate, our buildings may be separate, but we are actually living this one human experience, all of us together. So that really helps, transforming the suffering in the middle of it. We don't have to run away from it. Yeah.
Yeah, this point of this greater perspective where we bring in the suffering of all the others, I think that actually you know is beautiful in evading that antiseptic thing at the situation, because when you're facing that situation, perhaps you're not able to deal directly with the person who's causing that trouble, but uh, a vaster perspective, I think, actually makes sense. That's so beautiful,
Yeah.
because yeah, when you're in the middle of it, and of course, I guess it gets better later on. So I mean, this is beautiful. This is so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And even when I find myself being, in and as you said, the word that you use, in an antiseptic position, that I'm just applying some limited relief and bandage. The moment I notice myself in that position, I also notice the pain of so many in that position. I'm not alone. So I'm just awed, by the beauty that no matter whatever I am going through, we can just transform it at any level, at any level. There is no end to this transformation. And that's what we are here for. That every experience makes us more kinder, more compassionate, and makes me one at a ground level with all the others who are going through similar experiences. And that's why now, if one encounters a terrorist or a criminal who may, I may look at different eyes earlier, now they don't appear like, there are some persons who I don't know, because I have been through all the impulses, what he or she may have been through. If I can work upon them, why can the other person, not work upon them? So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so anyone else, any last comments, reflections before we close? Okay, so thank you so much everyone for coming together and sharing, listening to each other and reflecting. And I'll send you the week 6 prayers soon, and yeah, we'll meet next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you, Dr. Monica. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.